This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. And welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and I guess you're wondering why we did a bit of a different opening tonight. You know, Dr. Hook, a guy from very close to where I live here in Hamilton, his song, The Cover of the Rolling Stone. Now it's hard to find songs sometimes that work with a guest and what we're going to be talking to the guest about, but my guest this hour is Dr. Shelley Kaehr, a well-known lady and a good friend of the X-Zone Radio Show. It's always great having Dr. Kaehr with us. We're going to be discussing her new book, amongst other things. It's called Gemstone Roadtrip, hence the stone. Get it? Got it? All right, well, while you're saying, what's he talking about, you can give us a call toll-free worldwide, 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. Now, Dr. Shelley Kaehr is author of over 45 published books, novels, short stories, and plays. And Shelley is a leading authority on mind-body medicine. She is best known for her expertise on handling the healing properties of gems and stones. Her website, www.shelleykaehr.com. That's SHELLEYKEHR.com. And Shelley, welcome back to the X-Zone.
Hey, Rob, how are you?
I'm just doing great. Gemstones, it doesn't matter where you go, especially on the beaches. You see people picking up stones as if there's a magnetic force that gets them to bend over, pick up the stone, look at it. And 9 times out of 10, they put that stone in their pocket. Shelley, what is the attraction between people and stones?
I think it gets back to the fact that, all of the stones have different vibrational frequencies, and depending on, what it is that we need in our lives, we're attracted to them. And I think it also, like what your discussion about walking on the beach, it helps ground us to the earth, and it can be quite centering in times of turmoil.
Now, as you've discussed with us on the many times we've had the opportunity of having you on the show, Shelley, is that different stones have different healing qualities or different effects on people. And in your opinion, what is the most powerful stone that a person anywhere around the world listening to the show tonight can have access to, that they can actually see the changes in their lives?
I think that a few years ago I was touting the bloodstone as really being the top healing stone of all time, and I still do agree with that. I think that as the energies around the planet are shifting and changing, and I think everybody in the X-Zone Nation can agree that no matter how much you may want to hang on to your life as you know it, it's going to be evolving and changing as things go on. So I think as time evolves, different stones emerge energetically, just like new things appear in your life. And right now, for me, the Tibetan quartz is really the one.
All right, stand by, Shelley. You and I have to take a 2-minute commercial break. We'll be right back. Exonation, my special guest of this hour, my good friend, Dr. Shelley Kaehr. Her website, www.shelleykaehr. Wow. Dr. Kaehr is with us, talking about stones, here on the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell. We'll be back in 2. Don't go away. Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine like hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining room can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you're visiting, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic Fellsmere, or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, old Florida cuisine at its best.
Are you interested in the paranormal, ghosts, UFOs, or psychic phenomenon? Join me, Tim Bartley, co-host of Talking to Spirits with Lightworkers Tim and Justina, coming mid-January 2017 to the XZBN. We will channel spirits live and talk to them, revealing all kinds of amazing information. Spiritual attachments will be found and removed on the show, and so much more. To find out when you can listen to Talking to Spirits with Lightworkers Tim and Justina, visit www.xzbn.net for listeners on both sides of the veil.
Welcome back, everyone. Dr. Shelley Kaehr is our special guest this hour. We're talking about, amongst other things, Shelley's brand new book. It's entitled Gemstone Roadtrip. Her website, www.shelleykaehr.com, SHELLEYKAEHR.com. Shelley, why did you change the most powerful stone? As you said, for a number of years you were on the show talking about one, and now you've switched to a different one. Why was that? Is that because one stone kind of outlives its purpose in a timeline?
I mean, I still think the bloodstone is powerful for physical healing and things like that. But as far as like the one that I'm using right now, personally, that I think is energetically coming in really big time to help people right now, it's got to be Tibetan quartz.
How come?
But it doesn't mean that I don't still think the other one's powerful. I just think that different ones are needed at different times depending on what's happening. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And how popular or how easy is Tibetan quartz to find?
Well, it was very difficult to find for many years. I had a few pieces, but it was long ago. And then the last year or so, a lot of it has come to me. You know, that sometimes I think when a stone shows up to me in mass, like I ended up getting a bunch of Tibetan quartz, and I was like, wow, this must really be for a reason. And then a lot of it has gotten, disseminated around now.
Right.
Where you go, where is this stuff coming from? I had a dream, I guess. I guess you and I haven't talked really for about a year.
Yeah,
but
has it been that
about
long?
A year or more ago that I had a dream one night about citrine clusters. I've got some pictures of that on my website. The yellow citrine stone, which is it vibrates to the yellow ray and it helps open up the solar plexus chakra. But it also is known as the merchant stone because it helps people bring, economic prosperity to themselves. And then I had a dream about some quartz. And within, a few weeks, some friends of mine brought over a lot of minerals. Like it was the most minerals that I've had in my possession probably since I first got into this business. And then I began last year just kind of sending it out to a lot of the different store owners that I know and shops and then, of course, my different customers as well.
Now, besides
and realizing, wow, it comes to me for a reason, I guess.
Now, besides being an expert when it comes to gemstones, I understand that you also wrote 3 plays which are on stage, and you actually directed one. Man, talk about diversification.
Yeah, I've really been spending most of the last 5 years writing novels, and I don't know how it all. Last year, it was just all about the theater. I'm really into the idea that whatever you're doing on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve is really, and the people that you're with and everything is going to determine the course of the entire following year for you. And so, not this New Year's Eve, but the New Year's Eve before, during the lunch hour, I met some friends for lunch, and they were in the theater. And it had just occurred to me that I should write a play and put it on. And so I happened to be sitting at this luncheon with these people who ran a theater, and I ended up writing a couple of plays for them, met a director who liked my work, and I went over to his theater and I wrote a full-length play, and I directed it in the fall. And then I did, a lot of work as extras on different shows. And then the Discovery Channel came out last year, and I'm going to be on William Shatner's show later this year in the fall, but that was filmed last year. So it was kind of a year for TV and plays and theater and things like that. And then this year I'm doing something totally different. So I don't know. It's strange.
When you're writing a play, is there an inside message that you incorporate from your years of working with mind, body, soul, and spirit?
Yeah, in a sense, yes. The thing, I think of myself, I guess, internally as some kind of a crazy artist or a writer. And so as a writer, I think there's something really valuable about the experience I had last year writing for the theater, because when you're writing novels, you've got all of this luxury of time to develop a story, but in the theater, it's very immediate, and you have to be very mindful of the dialogue and the things that are happening on the stage. And so I decided to bring my book Life Stream that I wrote many years ago in nonfiction, The Journeys into Past and Future Lives. I fictionalized that story. I tell in that book the story of a friend of mine who had fallen off a cliff, and I saw his ghost in the window. And so I dramatized it, and I fictionalized it and put it on the stage. It was a really emotionally gut-wrenching process, and it was really interesting to see that same story that I know has resonated with a lot of my nonfiction audiences play out in front of a live audience in a theater. It was a really interesting experience.
Tell me about the people that you've helped over the last year in job transitions.
Yeah, this is another thing. This is kind of what I'm into right now, because I guess I am a Rolling Stone. Thank you, Craig, for your musical selections today. I really do appreciate it. I started last year. A lot of people were approaching me because I don't have to tell the X-Zone Nation that the economies are shifting.
Big time.
Different things that we used to do, kind of what I was saying earlier, things that we used to do that we were getting used to, or the people we used to think we were, we're not able to be those people anymore because our jobs are going away, and certain industries are. I've worked personally in a lot of industries that don't even exist anymore. And so a lot of people were coming to me because they need help trying to figure out what they're going to do. They got laid off or something, and maybe they used to make a lot of money, but now they're going to have to figure out how they're going to turn the boat around here and get back out into the workforce and keep a roof over their head. And I live in the little rose-colored glasses bubble as long as I can, but finally I started thinking, after really working with a lot of these people last year, I wonder how somebody would go out and get a job, because I've been self-employed for 11 years. I haven't really worked the way other people work in a very long time, and so I decided that it would be interesting if I could figure out how to get a job for myself, to see, would anyone even hire me, and, what would the process be? Could I, actually go out and try to do it so that I could maybe help some of these people who are coming to me? And so I'm telling you this, X-Zone Nation. I've never told anyone what I'm getting ready to tell you right now, but I feel like I need to say something about it, because I feel like I've had some experiences that could really be helpful to other people. I went out and I started putting my resumes out, and of course I learned very quickly that, that I think a lot of people are going through this. If you've got a lot of degrees, or let's say you ran the corporation for a long time, you can't be really advertising all that in your job hunt, or nobody's going to hire you. Because the reality is they're going to say, well, this person is overqualified.
Exactly.
So I spent the first phase of my job search being overqualified. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do, because you go to a person who is hiring, the chances are that they don't have degrees, they haven't had the world of experience that you've had, and you automatically become a threat to their job security.
It's a narrow way to look at the world, but yes, unfortunately, a lot of the managers probably feel that way.
Yep.
Instead of realizing that the better your people are, the better that makes you look. There's very few managers who really have that kind of mindset. So I was faced with this little task of realizing, as usual, nobody's going to give me a job.
So how did you remedy it?
Well, believe it or not, I can't believe I'm going to tell you guys this, but I might as well because I think it's going to help somebody. I thought, I'm going to go out and just take a job. And so I'm always at the gym all the time, and I'm meditating in the sauna. And there's a large company near where I live. I don't want to say the names of any of the places I'm going to be talking about, but something just told me to go over there. It's a warehouse. Okay, this is a warehouse. And so I was like, what? I don't want to do that. I go into my internal mind where I'm going to argue with myself. So finally I just drove by there one day, and I walked in the front door, and I was going, oh, my God, And I went up and I said, hey, are you guys hiring anyone? And they said, yeah, just call this temp agency. So I picked up the card, called the temp agency, and for the first time, somebody actually called me in for an interview. So I go in there, and, of course, I'm in a suit, and everybody's in there in jeans. And so I put my application in. And I was in here last year. I wrote a 500-page long horror novel. And one of the things that's been really interesting about fiction writing, I love it, but you're really not on the planet. You're like floating out in the ethers. But when you come back to the planet, you're going, my God, it's kind of lonely. I want to get out amongst people.
Right.
And I had just finished a very long passage in the book, and I was I just literally backed up. I was just dizzy. I said, I can't do any more right now. And the phone rang, and the temp agency guy said, hey, we need people to go over to that warehouse this afternoon and work in the warehouse. And at first I thought, I am an author. I just want to tell people this so they can hear what I'm going through. I mean, we all have an ego. I was like, I can't really do that. That's ridiculous, And so I said, no, I'm really not available today. So I hung up the phone, and I thought, what am I really doing this afternoon? I can't work on this book anymore. I could go to the gym or something, but I'm really going to sit here with the cat. So I thought, you know what? I am going to go in there.
You justified staying at home with your cat.
Yes, I'm going to stay home with the cat. I'm not going to do anything productive.
Well, cats need attention.
I went in.
Okay.
And I thought, what's the worst thing that could happen? I could hate it. I could say goodbye. I don't want to do this anymore. But I said, you know what? I feel like I've really been fortunate to have a lot of interesting experiences, which I now really want to spend the next half of my life really exploring in my fiction. And I thought, this is going to be an experience, if nothing else. So I went to the warehouse, people, and I worked in a warehouse for a month. And that is what I want to confess to the X-Zone Nation right now. And I have to tell you that as a personal growth process, it was one of the most challenging and yet kind of mentally stimulating things that I've done in a long time. And I worked there. Nobody spoke English, which was kind of really liberating. I didn't have to speak to anyone because they didn't understand what I was talking about, and I think they were talking about me half the time. But they didn't think I could understand. So I went to the library, and I learned Rosetta Stone, and then I went back in and I started saying things to them. And they went, oh my gosh, she understands us, And it was just a very interesting experience. And so right about the time I was working with an editor on this novel,
Shelley, we've got to do a little bit of a cliffhanger. I've got to take my news break. Please stand by. Dr. Shelley Kaehr is our special guest. If you need anybody to work in your warehouse, visit her website. Her contact information is there. www.shelleykaehr.com. SHELLEYKAEHR.com. My name's Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone. We'll be back on the other side of this news break. Whatever you do, don't go away. More to come.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Dr. Shelley Kaehr is our special guest this hour, X-Zone Nation, and she works hard for the money, whether she's working in a warehouse or whether she's helping somebody in a transitional situation in their lives. Dr. Kaehr is the author of over 45 published books, novels, short stories, and plays, and is a leading authority on mind-body medicine. Dr. Kaehr is best known for her experience on the healing properties of gems and stones. Her website, www.shelleykaehr.com. Oh, okay, Shelley, you've got to tell me, how did you escape the work in the warehouse?
Well, believe it or not, Rob, first of all, I got the job in the warehouse when I decided to drop the degrees and all the stuff off of the application, and just go in there like a person and just put my name in the hat. So they called me right when I was finished. I was kind of at a stopping point with this project, and I went into the warehouse and I worked there for a couple of weeks. And I had just heard back from my editor on the novel I was writing, and I was going to need to have time to make some changes. And I thought, my gosh, when am I going to get back to this? And sure enough, the next day I walked in there and everyone was laid off because it was a temp job. And I went, wow, this is great. So I had a lot more energy when I came back to my material because I stepped out of the house and I had an experience over there in the warehouse. Then I was working on that same novel because it was a really long one. And I think the explanation is, I really do believe that the unseen are assisting us. Okay, no, you all don't have to believe that, but I do believe that.
Now, when you say the unseen, what do you mean by that?
I don't know if they're, ancestors or...
Are we talking spirit world?
Whatever Yeah, the spirit world.
Okay.
Who is it? I don't know. Ancestors, angels, guides, whatever you want to call it. I believe that we have unseen assistance, and that things are in some kind of timing in our lives. That's just the way things seem to be working for me. So I was in here again, pounding out the novel, and again, I was at the same place I was the first time I got the warehouse job. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do it anymore. Yeah. I finished this novel, and I have literally put every ounce of myself into this material. And I come back out of the clouds, and I was actually taking a nap one day when I heard something in my ear whisper the name of a particular company again, which I will not name. And sure enough, the company happened to be hiring. And this is more of a corporate situation. So I happened to look in the paper. Back in the old days, you had to look for a job in the paper.
That's right.
Now you normally do it online. But part of my experience of this quest to figure out how to help people get a job was I was going online and sending my resume through these things like monster.com or whatever, and realizing that I heard from one hiring manager who said he might get 3,000 resumes for one little entry-level position. So I realized that the only way you're going to ever get a job, in my opinion, is if you go out to a job fair.
Exactly.
So sure enough, the company that was whispered in my ear, I happened to see it in the newspaper the next week, and they were having a job fair. And so I had it in my mind that probably I'd go, but then again, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I'm a writer and I am busy, and I am not going to go over there. When one day something just said, go now, and it was the end of the day. They were having a fair. It was going to last till 6 o'clock. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was going to have to drive across town. So I threw a suit on. I drove across town, and it was just one of those moments where this woman I met, you know how you look in somebody's eyes, you kind of see in their soul, and you go, my God, because again, I believe that we've lived before. I believe that we are destined to meet certain people that we know here in our lifetime. And when I met this woman, I said, I know that I'm supposed to be here to meet her. And I told her who I was. I told her that I write books, but that I'd like to get out of the house or something and do something because it might be interesting. and just to be around people, not to be, because it's been very, very isolating the last several years writing fiction novels, I can tell you. So anyway, she goes, you know what? I'm going to give you a chance. And so she just pushed my little resume through. And again, I thought, okay, fine. I came back. I finished up my novel. I started sending it out to the places it needed to go, and I had forgotten about it when I ended up getting an offer. I got a job offer for this is a real corporate job with a huge company, again, which I cannot name. And I thought, oh my God, so I decided I'm going to go over here and do this thing. And so I went over there, and I've been there for 3 months now. And this is an entry-level situation, again, because once again, I never told him I think I told him I had a bachelor's degree, but all the other stuff, and even a lot of, I used to train salespeople and all that stuff. I had to this is the advice I would give to people who are looking for jobs. It doesn't matter your accomplishments from the past or who you were in the past or whatever. The problem is now a lot of those, our ego and who we used to think, we used to identify ourselves with who we are and what we do for a living.
But Shelley, let me just stop you here for a second and ask you this question. If you go in to see a prospective employer, you undersell yourself. The HR department goes online and finds out all about you, and they see that you have not been honest with them. Aren't you just putting your foot in your mouth and waiting for the bullet to hit you?
You can see it like that, but I think that you still have to get in the door and make the most out of what you've got.
But you're getting yourself in the door, but you're also showing them that you're not an honest person.
I don't really see it like that.
Funny, from this side of the mic, I do. Because you're not being honest with me. You got the job under false pretense.
I think it's not necessarily false pretense as much as it's about figuring out what are the qualifications for the job.
Let me use this example.
Giving them those qualifications.
Let me use this example.
Okay.
We get applications to work with Relmar on an ongoing basis. We have, as you know, Shelley, we have our broadcast division, radio, TV, satellite, microwave. We have our production facilities. We do the X-Chronicles newspaper. We have e-format digital publishing. We have had people come in and do the exact thing that you're telling us about. And when we have found out, because we put them through a security screening process, we let them go. And if anybody was to call us up, we'd tell them what the reason was, we'd let them go. So this person, in my opinion, is not doing anything that would assist them, but they're showing people that they're not very honest. Hello?
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from on that.
So what would happen if tomorrow this lady who, based on the application that you had, based on the information that you gave her, was to run Shelley Kaehr through Google and see that you're a doctor, see that you have other degrees? How do you think she would take that?
Well, I know that the group is aware of that. So, and
all right.
In the short time that I've been there, I've managed to move up into something other than what I was initially hired for, because I was told by the initial woman because I told her about some of my advanced training and that I used to train salespeople, and this is a sales organization, and she said the reality is you have way more qualifications than. So I don't. Maybe I didn't explain it correctly. The woman who I met the day that I went in, she knew about my advanced qualifications.
Okay.
And she said there was going to be opportunities coming in the future.
But you said all you told her was that you had a bachelor's degree.
Well, no, I told them, I'm a master practitioner of neurolinguistic programming, and I told her about the fact that I used to work for a very famous sales trainer.
Oh, okay.
So, no, it wasn't like I didn't tell them. I didn't put my Ph.D. down, though.
Why not?
I will tell you that now.
Why?
Why? Because in my prior experience with job hunting, in my little experiment that I was having, that just never played out well. And I figure, well, my PhD really is in paranormal psychology, which really is unrelated to a sales position. So,
okay, I can
not
understand
in the
that.
same field,
I think.
but my NLP training and the fact that I've trained to major corporations, that is related to sales, and that material was on my resume.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, but when it comes to a person's credibility and who that person is, if I find out they're not being honest with me, or they haven't been honest with me, that person in my books is gone. Because a person's credibility is who that person really is. In my books.
Right. No, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Anyway, listen, I wish you all the best of luck in your new job, because whoever this company is, they've got themselves a great employee.
Well, thanks.
How can, in today's job market, as I'm sure everyone listening to the show knows, it is very volatile. It's very competitive. We have kids coming out of, I'll give you an example. A number of years ago, I was working at a radio station, and I had, I was in the executive area of the station, and one day, 40 of us were let go because of the college kids or the broadcast school kids that were coming out, and they were called the 2020 gang. They were 20 years old and would do any job for $20,000 a year. 40 of us let go. That taught me one very valuable lesson. If I wanted stability in any job market, I could not depend on anyone else except myself. And that very day, going back nearly 20 years ago, Relmar was formed.
Mm-hmm.
And 20 years later, here we are. We're still doing what we did. We've got a lot more people. We have a further reach. But I believe that the only difference between a dream and reality is just making it happen. I had the dream about Relmar, and through hard work, dedication, sleepless nights, and a lot of Zantac. No, Zantac, that's not the right one. It's which one do you take for upset stomach? Yes, Zantac, that's right. We have survived, and we're growing. In today's economy, isn't entrepreneurial professions on the uprise?
I would think so, yes. Yes, but I also think that the entrepreneur, as you know, has to be more flexible about and open to the different avenues of business that are coming to him or her.
Definitely. Yeah, and an entrepreneur cannot be afraid to take a chance. An entrepreneur has to be, in my opinion, a salmon to swim against the current.
Exactly.
Where do you see the workforce of 2013, 2014 being its strongest?
I think we've got a lot of problems because of all the, we've let go of business. I'm particularly talking about the United States.
Mm-hmm.
We've let go of many of our industries and just given them away to other people. That I think that's one of the real problems. So entrepreneurial activities are going to be on the rise. I think people are going to have to take more charge of their reality because the jobs that are out there, at least at the level of what I'm talking about, people have to be able to get in the door somewhere and then work their way up. They can't just, and you really are up against a lot more competition. So even if you are working somewhere, I think you still I've always had a business on the side, even when I was working. I think you have to have multiple streams of income.
Do you see the home-based business through the internet being a business that people should look at if they're going through a transition, if they've just been let go from a position that they've had for 20, 25 years?
I think, yeah, like getting a distributorship, maybe getting an online business, because any kind of business that you're running, even if you're running it on the side, gives you certain kinds of abilities to, write off different expenses and do different things like that. Plus, of course, the Internet's growing. I think it's really challenging, though, because the Internet's getting more glutted with material that it's harder to be seen out there in the ocean than it was before,
Well, plus, you can only have so many people selling so many products. The economy, I don't believe, will be able to carry very many more distributors and new products that are coming out.
Yeah, I think there's, we just don't make anything over here anymore. That's the problem.
Is that because the worker in the United States demands so much that the corporation or the company or the manufacturer has to look elsewhere in order to make a profit?
There's probably, a lot of the government bureaucracies, I think, have made it supposedly more difficult for the corporation to afford to do business over here. But the problem is then, at some point we have to stand up and say, no, we're going to bring it back here. Or
we have to stand up and say, Shelley, stand by. We've got to take a commercial break. We'll be back on the other side of this break with Dr. Shelley Kaehr.
18 Sergeant Central. 19 Sergeant, check. Officers on the scene.
Hi, I'm Larry Lawson, host of Paranormal Stakeout. With over 36 years in law enforcement, I have learned a few things. The most important is the proper gathering and preservation of evidence is vital to putting the bad guy behind bars. It's no different in the world of paranormal investigation. Whether it's the search for the afterlife, cryptozoology, UFOs, and extraterrestrials, how we gather the evidence, preserve that evidence, and present it to a jury of our peers will make the ultimate difference in proving the existence of worlds and entities that are beyond our imagination. Join me, Larry Lawson, every week on Paranormal Stakeout when, along with my guests, we'll take a journey to prove with indisputable evidence what man has struggled to believe for centuries. Go to xzbn.net for the broadcast schedule and check me out at paranormalstakeout.com.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Stoned Soul Picnic by the Fifth Dimension is the song that Craig brought us back with because Dr. Kaehr has a brand new book out, Exonation, Gemstone Roadtrip. It's available on her website at www.shelleykaehr.com. That's SHELLEYKAEHR. Shelley, I've got a question here from one of our production assistants. They would like to know, is there a special stone that they can carry with them to find romance?
Yes, rose quartz is the best.
And does rose quartz grow, or is it I know it doesn't grow, but how do stones form?
It's a compaction of mineral materials forming over millions and millions of years. And the quartz is a very common stone around the planet, but when it has different trace minerals in it, the rose, I believe it's titanium that's coloring it pink. And there's something about the frequency of rose quartz. They actually grind it up and they put it in cosmetics now.
Wow.
Because it helps rid the person of wrinkles, but it also changes the frequency of the person and opens the heart center and just helps you attract love or feel more loving within yourself. It's a really, really great stone. And it's very accessible and affordable as well.
Do you think that we'll be seeing more and more stones and gemstones being incorporated into everyday life in the near future?
I think it is starting to become a bigger thing in the cosmetics industry, and certainly, of course, we use quartz crystals in our computers and for our communications devices as well.
Sure.
But also, there's more. I don't know, there's more information on the Discovery Channel, the Sci-Fi Channel, where there's different programs where you see people. There's a lot of shows about witches, like on the CW. You can watch the Vampire Diaries or some of these other shows where you see people using the stones for different magical purposes. But in that, I think those kinds of things are becoming more accessible, and people are starting to learn about the intention behind the stones more.
Now, you said the intention. Is it the intention of the person who's holding the stone that works with the stone in order to have the desired effect happen?
It's partly based on the person's intention, yes, but it's also because the stone in and of itself, each one of them has a different vibrational frequency. And so when you introduce the stone to yourself, it's automatically going to cause you to resonate in a different frequency depending on which stone you are near. So whether you want to bring love, you need to bring more wealth, you need to balance different areas of your life. You can use different stones for that as well.
Shelley, as always, great talking to you. We've run out of time for tonight, but we'll look forward to the next time you join us here in the X Zone. Congratulations on another book. X Zone Nation, Dr. Shelley Kaehr has been my guest this hour. She is the author of over 45 published books, novels, short stories, and plays, and is a leading authority on mind-body medicine. She's best known worldwide for her expertise on healing properties of gems and stones. Her brand new book is entitled Gemstone Roadtrip, and her website is www.shelleykaehr.com. That's www.shelleykaehr.com. And I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our studios in beautiful Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. We'll be back after the news.